Little Simz, sometimes I might be an introvert.
I might be introvert, not an introvert.
Right. I
I
have
might be
that in my
introvert.
head wrong. Yes.
Yeah, I say that every time. I'm like, love you, little Sims, but damn it, put an and in there. It is 19 songs, an hour and 5 minutes long. Yeah, starts off very, very well with the track Introvert. I first heard of Little Sims, by the way, or like the first track that I really kind of got into was that one um, Gorillaz track that came out 4 years ago or something like that, Garage Palace, I believe. Whatever one that she was on was like after Humans release.
Yeah, you're right.
And
That is absolutely correct. That's the song.
okay, yeah, that was one because I heard her rapping on. I was like, shit, she goes really hard. And then that's when I kind of got into and listened to some of her stuff. But anyways, Introvert starts off. It's a pretty cool opening track because it starts off with like this big like brass band marching beat and whatnot, kind of getting you into the track like for about a minute. And then once that kind of transpires, then Little Sims just goes on and just her flow, the production, everything is just full gas right in front of you for that track, and it's gorgeous. And then you have like that ensemble and stuff kind of go throughout the track, and ends and pops up. So it's a very long opening track, but it's one of my favorites of the year so far because it's very different and it sets kind of the mood and tone for what you're gonna get and see throughout the record.
Yeah, the interest I'd say the best and worst part about this album is that there's a lot of like grandeur to it. As a
Yes.
record, like it's put together. There's a lot of interludes, and they all kind of go together to tell a story,
Yep.
and to help develop the theme. All these things, and a lot of albums do this sometimes, where the extra flourishes and touches that help solidify the album's theme really do that. They help solidify the album's theme. The downside is that they can also add a lot of fluff and filler where it doesn't need to be, and then it makes you kind of like more critically look at that record and be like, okay, what is this fluff and filler like trying to hide? Like, can I get past it? Stuff for me to get past. The interesting thing
Mhm.
with this record though is like the songs here go like very hard. Like I'm trying to go to like some of the producing credits on here, and the producers for this record seems to be let me see, Inflow, Jack Wobb, and Miles James, who are just, general producers in like neo soul and hip hop or whatever. But
Yep.
they I was thinking like Woman by Little Sims, production
Woman
wise,
goes
quality wise,
hard.
it reminded me of a song that Karen O and Danger Mouse did that was also called Woman. That was similarly just like tightly produced and very like
Interesting. I've
like big, and we reviewed it very very long time ago on Audioface. It was like March of 2018 or 19 or something like that.
Oh wow. Okay.
And yeah, it was just a really like Karen O. It just like had her vocals just like singing and really just like
Mm,
powerful. The production of Danger Mouse just punchy and crunchy as ever, and you really get that same effect in Little Sims's song "Woman" as well. And you get it here where they're just like songs that have this like amazing Kanye West in his prime levels of production quality. I'll go to like "Love You Hate You" down there where you
I
have
wanted
this.
to get you that track. Yeah.
Yeah, it just shows like Little Sim's kind of talking about her relationship with her father, and like having this like
Hmm.
I love you like as a parent, but like you while raising me like just put me through a lot of unnecessary crap, wouldn't let me just like grow as a woman and be myself and all these different things. And so that constant dichotomy within the chorus, within the sample, is just so brilliantly and meticulously thought out. Like this is the kind of thinking that we want all artists to approach their albums with, because you're an artist. Your album, this is your work. It deserves this kind of thought into it. And Little Sim just like checks all the boxes and knocks out of the park.
Yeah, it's this one thing that I would love to say throughout this is the production of it is fantastic. You have a lot of different styles of tracks, right? Um you have your neo soul stuff, you've got like just the heavy hitting hip hop that is great. The interludes I don't find to be super annoying necessarily. Because like Little Q part 1 and 2, like the interlude for that track is fine because it kind of like sets up a fun little story for it. It doesn't like some of them can get like a little long because I know the Grab That Came to Tea, like that one is a little bit too long of an interlude. If that one was a little bit shorter, might not have kind of brought at least my listening to a little bit of a halt. That's probably one of my only main complaints of the record. But for like Little Q Part 2, it really sets up the track and kind of how she wanted to make the production sound. So that way you can really get through that whole concept of the record, which you know me, I like my concept records. Um, but some of them there's interesting because these interludes could be pretty long compared, but it was interesting with how she set it up. I really liked Speed going into like the middle of the record after the Gems interlude because that's just it's short, it's fast into it, and I really like the drum beat in it. And it reminds me of Gorilla's sound with the way the production is, the sound of it, and it's probably my favorite track on the record. So I listened to it, I was just like, wow, that's such a cool track. I really like how it was how it was made.
Oh, it's got some OG gorillas in there for sure. It's very like
Exactly.
dubby, kind of simple. Really like that. Like not simple in like a derivative way, like a derogatory way, but like it just all you need are the basics, and it goes throughout that regardless.
Yes.
You have some really good songs. Like I think every rapper, of course, if you're doing a rap album right, you need your just like bravado, I'm the best song, and standing ovation
Then
just very
Innovation right after
clearly
Speed. Yep.
works for that. And it's a really like again, there's very little filler in this, even considering how much album you have. I'd say the filler are the interludes, and you got about exactly my opinions right. I don't hate the interludes, and I think they add a lot to the album and the record, but I think they are just a little bit too much, and when taken as a whole, in that like, okay, I would have done with like fewer interludes, cut straight to the point because there's some good stuff in there, and just like get to the great music that's there.
Or would have made the if you want to keep the interludes, just makes them shorter because the interludes
Sure.
can be long. They're 2 minutes 45 seconds. You know, they're nearly 3 minutes long on some of them. So if you can make those a little bit shorter, it can make the album a little bit more concise and a little bit easier to rummage through a lot of it for the average listener. For us, that we do this every week, we can kind of sift through it and go throughout the whole record and really pick out the stuff we like. But for someone else who wants to necessarily get in there, then it might be a little bit more difficult to see it because you see 19 tracks or you see a runtime like, wow, that's a lot. I mean, where do I start, where do I go, especially if you're someone who hasn't listened to Little Simz before, because she has a lot of different sounds, a lot of different production stuff in this record and in her discography as well.
Yeah, and I get concerned about that. Like, will people go through? I mean, obviously, people will for like Kanye and Drake. They'll go through
Yeah.
hour long, hour and a half long, 2 hour long projects for these things. But like, Little Sims, to her credit, like she's made herself as like an underground darling, but still very like underground. So how do you like get people into that? Is like kind of like my concern. But ultimately, like at the end of the day, the music will speak for itself.
Yeah, and like going down the record, like you have 13, which is my second favorite track on the record. You have Protect My Energy, which has this beautiful 80s beat throughout the whole song. And just like, gets me back to my when I was younger, and I would listen to a lot of 80s and early 90s records and stuff. And it was just fantastic for it. But then can you sit through that within the rest of the record? That's kind of my worry / complaint of it. But I like the record a lot. Like I've listened to Protect My Energy and Speed a ton the past couple of days. Like I think I put them in the playlist. I'm pretty sure because I've been listening to those tracks a lot. Um,
Yeah,
Flow is fantastic. Lyricism's great. Production's incredible too.
I wanted to also drop a shout out to Point and Kill, which is just
Yeah,
like in between. There's an interlude between Protect My Energy and
never
Point and
becomes.
Kill, and like that's the
Yeah,
thing is that like, and again, sometimes I might be introvert. Is something I vibe with. I don't know about you. I think we'd both be introverted people, so like I
I
vibe
mean,
with
I
a
am
lot of this
extremely
message.
introverted if I could be.
Yes,
Given the choice, I am.
yeah, that's true. I think we're both have like a lot of obligations that require us to like go outside, but like or not just it's more complicated than just like being outside, right? Because like I also don't like being cooped up in my room all the time ever.
Same.
Like COVID was a particularly difficult thing for me, where like one thing I battle against like my depression and things like that is just being outside. But the especially like the garden interlude, what I'm getting at, the garden interlude I think is like all these different like messages for introverts about like it's similar to the message of protect your energy, like it's acknowledging that you need to sort of be yourself and have yourself together before you go out into the world, because introverts like
Yeah,
enjoy the world, enjoy people, but they also kind of have a bit of a clock, or they know that like, okay, at a certain point
you can
I need
only
to
be
dial
around
back.
people. Exactly. And that's like personally, that's exactly how I am. I can only have so much interaction before then I get completely overwhelmed to the point where I go, my God, I could shut down necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think that's great, and that's what I love that without the record is she keeps pointing to that here or there, and it's yeah, I
And
really enjoyed it. I
and
really
bringing
enjoyed that record.
empowerment to that experience and bringing voice to that experience, which is like again
Exactly.
not even us speaking to that and saying like that's awesome like coming from us, but like you're speaking to an experience you have and you're making that experience like empowering. Like we've talked about it in the case of Lizzo, we've talked about it in the case of Lil Nas
Yep.
X, like we love in this case of Little Simz as well. So bra fucking vo. And
Eh,
my last thing around the interludes is that I I would love I would have and I do like the interludes just because I said they've filled with like really nice things, especially for the introvert topic. But this album would have been such a fire experience if it's just banger after banger after banger after banger, which it is without the interludes. Like it's just, the songs
yeah,
like this album's a hit parade. There's barely any
it
like
is.
things where like it stops, it slows down, where like I hate like or like I don't want to listen to one of these songs or I skip it. I do that with the interludes, but everything else I can bang in my car and the bass is bumping and it's great and I
Yep.
really love it. Like
Yep.
it's such an immaculate album, which is why I'm sort of like when we have albums on Audioface that we really really enjoy, we pick them apart sometimes the most. And yeah, I just wish the interludes were cut back a little bit because it ruins almost like the hit parade nature of this album. That being said, clearly Little Simz like could have gone for like a 35-minute just nonstop banger after banger album or EP, and she's done that and very clearly has that in her. But she wanted to do something more conceptual, more broad, like more broader to have like an actual theme and message within it, and you need some more real estate to do that. And so I grant you that it was overall a good job despite my nitpicks.
Yes, thoroughly agreed.
Now, for the arbitrary scale, we do arbitrary scales in Audioface because actually giving a rating system for a scale doesn't matter, and what we said in the review is what we said in the review. This arbitrary scale week, we're doing Donda Chance, and this is going to be 10 good Donda. Like a long da at the end of them. Like you are Kevin Hart trying to punch himself in the stomach enough to get the bass down in his voice enough to do voice acting.
This is 53 very very quick dondas. So you're trying to beatbox donda or something. It's like donna 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 to the point where it's like you hear it, you hear it so much that it's just all blurs into one, like Tom York says, and then you don't halfway through you don't understand that they keep saying donda, but it's donda the whole 53 times.